initially I didn't want to go and study photography because I was scared that I was going to kind of like taint this holy thing that I'd found. So I was like, I'm going to go study cinematography, which I did, which was amazing because it kind of taught me a whole new skill set and was kind of adjacent to photography. So it felt like it was feeding this dream that I had. And I think I just learned quite quickly that if I want to do the other stuff that I really enjoy, I need to work in a commercial capacity to kind of fund that. But I also liked the sort of challenge of like taking on other people's ideas and trying to make that a sort of reality. So it was a bit of both. I was in college, a lot of my friends were musicians or artists or whatever, and like through that I got these sort of drips and drabs of jobs and was able to kind of build enough of a portfolio to kind of get signed with an agency here in Cape Town. Then I've kind of always just developed it because I do love it. Like I do love the fact that you get rewarded for making imagery, whether it be monetary, amazing places you get to see, you get to meet the most incredible people, various writers and artists, and it's just like it unlocks just a multitude of doors that get you thinking about the personal work that you want to make. It kind of feeds, no matter how much you don't think it does, it feeds that pursuit. The first one was on the back of my sort of first success as like a commercial photographer. I mean, I think I was like 24, 25. And I was kind of on the East Coast. I was in New York, and then I flew to my buddy Emeka, who's a longtime collaborator of mine. And I bought a van there, an Astra van, a Chev Astra. And then I got rid of all the seats, and I was like, I'm going to go kind of do this sort of classic American road trip. And to be honest, that trip was one of the most sort of formative times in my photography, because it was when I just started shooting medium format, and I was shooting Mobile 7, and it kind of forces you to kind of see the world in a certain way, and I really resonated with that. And it just felt like being on your own like that, experiencing a place that was so vast and had so much opportunity in terms of making photographs, but also felt so familiar. I just felt like I could photograph everything. It was crazy. And I think it was still at that age where I was just so excited and almost feral to like just making images. Like, I'm sure you know that feeling. It's like this, it's almost like you have like a virus inside of you that's like taken over, and you just want to, like, everything feels like a possibility. And I also think I hadn't like kind of formulated so much of like a practice of researching photography, so I wasn't overly tainted by influences. I was kind of just shooting kind of blind, which was kind of cool. It's like sort of blissful naivety, I guess. And that's where I felt like I started developing this sort of way of seeing things, and set me on a path to then like grow to where I am today. So that was like the catalyst for, I would say, the sort of professional era. I still like to have a camera as close as possible, because I mean, I worry that day that you go out and you're driving to go and like drop film off at the lab, you see, like, I don't know, something completely bizarre that you would never expect, and it just passes you by. In many ways, it started as like an investigation of my own memory and my sort of own life. And then I soon realized that memory is a collective experience, kind of handed down to you by the people in your life. And it also kind of shape shifts over time. Um, whether it leads to like a trauma response or just your personal experiences with maturing and your different perspectives on life through just like as a human being traveling through your existence, your memory kind of changes and morphs and takes on various faces and forms depending on where you're at. And I think your personality can also do that, and the mental state and all of that. So in many ways, it's about that. So it's not a very cohesive book in that regard, that there's not a sort of something that ties it together. It's meant to be kind of read almost like poetry in many ways. I've spoken about this before, but there's really good examples of it. Like on the front cover, there's a picture of a gun, which for the longest time I thought was my uncle's gun that he took his life with. And then subsequently, through discussing this with my father, it's actually just my grandfather's gun. And as a youngster, I kind of formed this memory that was just not true. The whole book's a kind of therapy about me dealing with fear, insecurity, and everything that comes with, firstly, I guess, being a human being, but also secondly, what it means to be a photographer and visual sort of artist, which I use very loosely. To kind of give a personal story, and now that I think about when I think of like it's meant to feel like almost like a fever dream. It's like a sort of something I've thrown around when kind of discussing this. Like I drove to Malawi once with a whole bunch of friends. We're in a bus, and it was incredibly hot. And I think it's the closest I've been to one of those like wacky states where you kind of all over the place. And that's kind of what this book's meant to feel like. In terms of sequencing, I have to give all the credit to sort of Tommaso at Witty Books, who's the publisher of this book. I think the images felt quite overwhelming for me to try like delve into that when like I did the book dummy that you saw initially in Montana. Like we just stuck up whole images on the wall and tried to like make sense of it. It's too overwhelming to try and like make it feel cohesive. So Tommaso, I kind of gave the images and he culled a whole bunch of them from the sort of list, and then kind of put his own meaning to the sequence. And I think that's kind of how we got to where it is now. I think the personal stuff anchors the madness around it. So it was like this grounding element. And if it didn't have that, you would look at this book and it would just be a whole array of like just strange imagery. But the fact that it's grounded in the personal kind of is the glue that keeps it together. So it's certainly not easy. I mean, there is a vulnerability to it, but it's very necessary. It almost feels like I'm making like I'm dead already, and I'm like making something about my life. It just feels like a bit strange. So I'm trying to also like and like going back to what you said about like giving yourself like being nicer to yourself. Like I think what I was trying to say there is like I think maybe give ourselves slack in how we use like the media that we have. But like I'm the worst when it comes to like being on my back and driving my career. Like I never give myself an inch, and I wish I could. So that's maybe also why it felt like torture making this work at times, because it's just you want it to be a success, and you also wanted like people to resonate with the work. Like I can't control that, and I've said that before. Like in this book out, like I'm not hoping for any specific response from people. They're gonna decide that for themselves. But like I think I just want to know that I went into it like foot on and gave every part of what like the project needed. The internet is, we fight against it, but it's also our home, in many ways. Like I know some people might like wince the thought of it, and it's like it's easy to get stuck on this idea of like nostalgia and yearning. Like I wish I was making 8x10 photographs in the 90s and there were not many people doing it. Like that's not who we are. And the way we share information is this new way. And like it's like the fact that you and I are sitting on the opposite sides of the earth right now in different time zones and literally different seasons and having discussion about like real world things is just as profound as like writing a letter to someone in my mind. I don't know, I feel like whenever I'm making photographs, maybe not, sometimes not on commercial stuff because it's maybe a little stressful, but like I always feel like I'm exactly where I should be. Like if I've got a camera in my hand and I'm excited enough to be making an image, like I'm exactly where I need to be. And I think that creates a heightened awareness. And I don't think it's crazy at all. I think it's quite special to have something in our lives that, without sounding super cheesy, it's just like not many people have that. And I don't know about you, but like I feel like I'm very lucky to have lots of people in my life that are very passionate about what they do, but I also know a lot of people that I maybe went to school with or university or are good friends of mine that are deeply unhappy in the work they do. And I'm always just like, I don't know what that feels like. I think it's quite an incredible thing to have found, or at least for me, found it so early and be able to maintain it. And I think that's why it's hard to sometimes just like, give into that, talk about simple things like changing my performance, like sucking it up and shooting digital every now and then. It's like, it's a lot more profound than just taking photographs.